Financial Argument. Follow us on YouTube.
Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, we've been looking at these economic indicators, and we are seeing more and more indicators that this economy is deteriorating very, very quickly. Yesterday, I mentioned the tax receipts, and we've been looking at GDP, retail, housing, and when we put all this together, we can see that the economy is not as strong as the U.S. government central bankers want us to believe. Now, George Soros, very interestingly, he is selling stocks and buying gold, and he's making a major, big bearish investments. Now, if things are stable and everything is okay, the question is, why would he be doing this at this point? Now, we realize from everything that we've been looking at that this economy is not doing well. Things are deteriorating very, very quickly. We know there's concerns about the Brexit. We know the vote is coming up on June 23rd. And even if the vote goes through, do you really think they're going to let the people decide what the country should do? I doubt it. I believe what's going to happen is they're going to shut the whole thing down. They're going to manipulate the elections. And if the people do vote to exit the euro, guess what's going to happen? The government is going to say, well, in your best interest, we are going to stay in the Eurozone, and just too bad on you. And we see this is what happened in Greece. People went out, they voted for Tsipras. They thought Tsipras was going to do what they wanted him to do, which was stand up to the bankers, and the government, in the end, folded. And again, the people voted. They thought they were going to voice their opinion, and the government they voted for, once again, disappointed. Now, most likely this is going to happen. Now, is George Soros, is he looking into the future, or does he know the future already? Because a lot of these central bankers already know what is about to happen here. And are they looking at the situation saying, okay, we are ready to bring the system down. We're going to bring it down. Let's start getting prepared. And this could be a indicator that the economy is going to crash here. They're going to bring it down, crash it, because we're getting a lot of individuals out there saying that something in the second half of this year is going to happen. Now, we see a lot of things building up. We see things all around the globe, out in the Pacific, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, in Africa, and it's all coming to a head right now. And very interestingly, a French MP, he wants sanctions against Ukraine for not fulfilling the Minsk II ceasefire agreement. Now, how far is this going to get? Most likely, absolutely nowhere. But we can see there's people already looking at this saying, okay, the truth is, Ukraine is not fulfilling the Minsk agreement. The United States is provoking China, provoking Russia, provoking North Korea, provoking Syria. The United States is out there pushing war around the world. And a lot of individuals in government are starting to realize this in Europe, because you have to remember, Europe is on the front lines. When war breaks out, Europe is on the front lines. Now, out in Afghanistan, we understand that the troops were never going to leave Afghanistan. The only reason Obama came out saying that there's going to be withdrawal is because Karzai, the president at the time, would not sign the bilateral security agreement, which would give the soldiers immunity inside Afghanistan. Once Karzai left office and Kerry went into Afghanistan to fix the elections, they got the person they wanted. And as soon as that person was elected, they signed the bilateral security agreement. And now we hear that Obama approved airstrikes in Afghanistan. And this is coming from a senior U.S. defense official. And the new plan may affect the timeline of the rest of the troops being withdrawn from Afghanistan. And remember, Afghanistan, they have a pipeline running through Afghanistan. There's a huge amount of copper, lithium. They have the poppy fields where they use it to pay for covert missions. They sell it as opium around the world. They protect it. The U.S. soldiers protect it. And we have to remember, Russia and China are in Afghanistan. helping the infrastructure in that area. And the United States government central bankers, they are never giving up this strategic location and a country that is rich in natural resources. They're not leaving. Now, very interestingly, China realizes and Russia realizes that the United States is going to continually provoke war. They're not going to stop. And we see back in January, the People's Liberation Army Air Force, they were preparing to develop a new fleet of stealth fighters and heavy transport aircraft. And the heavy transport aircraft, the Y-20 transport, was going to be built in order to give Beijing a fast and reliable platform to deliver arms anywhere in the world. Because these planes were able to fly something like 3,000 plus miles. Now, originally they wanted 400, but because of the experiences with the United States and what is going on with the United States provoking war around the world, they have ordered 1,000 of these transport planes, which will allow them to transport heavy weapons, troops, anywhere in the world. And you can see these countries are starting to realize what is coming. Why do you think the United States government central bankers have been moving military assets slowly but surely into each part of the world? It's in preparation. Now, we can see we're getting closer and closer to this summer event. Now, it seems like everything is on track. All the indicators are still pointing to it. We just got another indicator that something is about to happen. The Department of State warns U.S. citizens against all travel to Libya right now and recommends that U.S. citizens currently in Libya leave now. They're saying the security situation in Libya remains unpredictable and unstable, and the Islamic State is running crazy around the entire country. And those people that are in the country make contingency plans to get out of the country as soon as possible. And don't forget to maintain security awareness at all times. So this is another indicator showing us that they are planning for something in the summer. And we're starting to see, and we're starting to put all the pieces together, and we're starting to realize that they're pushing this plan forward. Now, Russia, they are driving into Raqqa right now. They are moving very quickly. They're hitting the oil facilities. They're hitting the Islamic State. They're pushing them back. And we know the United States was on the other end. They were driving into Raqqa, saying that they're going after the Islamic State. But very interestingly, the U.S. is retreating in Raqqa as the Syrian army and Russia are moving in very quickly. Now, they've taken their forces and they reposition them into Manbij and saying, okay, we really want to conquer Manbij because this will help us into removing Assad. This is a strategic location and we need this city. So it looks like wherever the Syrian army and the Russian forces are, they are no match. And the U.S. cannot battle in the same area. And they know this. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the Islamic State, replace them with the moderate rebels, and say, okay, we now have this area. But it seems like the Syrian armed forces in Russia, they are moving very, very quickly now. Now, in Aleppo, we're starting to find out, and this is coming from the monitoring groups, that 30 civilians have died in Aleppo. Turkey blamed this on Russia, and we're finding out that this was really the U.S.-led coalition where they bombed this area and they hit 30 civilians at this point. And we can see this happens and it occurs very often. Now, coming from the UN envoy, we see that the Syria peace talks for now, they are not going ahead with them. And we realized there was a date. And that date, the deadline, was August 1st to have some type of transitional government. And we see at this point that the transitional government does not include Assad stepping down. Now, remember, August 1st of this year. What do we have right now? Well, we have 2 aircraft carriers now in the Mediterranean with their strike groups. We realize there's travel warnings. There's a warning in Libya now, and I'm going to guess there's going to be many more warnings coming out from all the surrounding areas where they're going to tell Americans to stay out of the area completely. We saw this back in 2013, we saw it back in 2014, and we saw it back in 2015. And here we are in 2016. So it looks like, at this point, the United States is gradually going to Plan B. We see the United States and all the NATO member states, they're attracting more and more forces into the area. We know Ashton Carter did the whole thing, went around. We know the refugees was to create chaos in the region and force the European nations into bringing in more military assets and more troops into the area. Now think about what they're doing at this point. We know the Syrian army and the Russian forces are in Syria. They want to outnumber them with troops and assets. And the only way they can do this at this point is to bring in Europe into the fight. 1,000 troops here, 5,000 there, 1,000 here, and this is exactly what they're doing. They're building up the forces. So they're slowly going to Plan B right now. And they're going to support the Syrian opposition, the moderate rebels, and they're going to be moving towards getting Assad. Now, their plan is to destabilize the entire region and try to break off the areas into autonomous regions, which they will then not report to Damascus. And we already know there's a secret agreement with Turkey to set up these type of zones, even though the United States is continually denying this. And we see Belgium, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, all their air forces, they're going to be assisting in this fight, along with the UK, along with France. And we already know UK, the United States, France, and believe me, many other countries, they're already in the country. Why do you think they built the 2 bases in Syria in the northern region? Because this was to bring in the troops, to bring in the military assets, and they've been using this time to do this. And at this point, the indicators are still pointing in this way. We know we have this August 1st date, and this is something that we need to watch. Now, the FBI, they are ramping up their sting operations against the Islamic State. Now, what's very interesting is the FBI came out and said that, the amount of people looking at the Islamic State sites and the amount of people that are going over to fight has been decreasing. Well, as we know, they've been decreasing because the United States government central bankers are not funding to get these fighters, these paid mercenaries, over to the fight, because Russia is destroying them, and anywhere the Islamic State is, it's just bad news. So then we have Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra, where everything is morphing into, and this is why the FBI is not seeing any of this. Now, most of it's made up. And anyone that's going over to the Islamic State, that is coming from the agencies which they are paying them to be paid mercenaries in the fight. But the FBI, they're ramping up their Islamic State recruiting sting operations. Now, a lot of legal experts criticize that this is completely entrapment, which it is. And what they're doing is they're convincing citizens to do things they normally wouldn't do. And a lot of times, the citizens are the mentally ill. Now, the FBI admits that there's hundreds of sting operations ongoing right now, despite the reports that are continually coming out that 2/3 of the FBI terror prosecutions, they're based on FBI fabricated plots. Think about this. The recent arrest resulted after the FBI shipped fake guns to people who had no prior ties to the Islamic State and then arrested them for plotting terror actions. The FBI also made plane tickets to Syria easily available and then arrested recipients of those tickets at the airport. Most recently, an FBI agent gave a panhandler some money and a knife and told him to stab people for the Islamic State. And the most appalling example of the FBI's radicalization is the arrest of a mentally ill 25-year-old Emmanuel Lunchman of Rochester, New York, who was steered toward attacking an area bar on New Year's Eve for the Islamic State. Now, Lunchman first reached out to the FBI agent about his desire to travel the world, but then the agent started to talk about the Islamic State, about proving himself, and if you prove yourself, you'll be able to travel, and all you have to do is carry out a domestic attack. And the FBI went ahead, coaxed this person into doing it, and Lunchman, was going ahead with the entire plan. Now, his parents saying that he never talked about this. He doesn't have the mental capacity to do this. And it looks like from the Department of Justice filing and the family assessment, the young man, he lacked the means to buy the supplies or the mental wherewithal to carry out the attack on his own. And this is what the United States is doing now. It's using its own citizens, going to the people that need funds, those people that are mentally ill, and convincing them into becoming the Islamic State. That's pure entrapment. This is not a homegrown terrorist who wants to cause domestic terrorism on the land of the United States. This is the FBI proving that they have the ability to coerce people into doing things which they actually don't even really do. And they trap them into this to show the world, like, look, there's this Islamic State all over the place. But there really isn't. Again, another instance of something that is fake, phony, and false. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.